A dog bites you and sinks its teeth into your arm. There's blood, there's panic, the kids are screaming, and you've got just a few minutes to act. Miss one critical step, and Maryland's law, whether it's strict liability, negligence, what have you, can flip, letting the owner dodge responsibility while you face infections and surgeries and five-figure bills or scarring. Stay with me, and I'll show you the exact first moves, medical, photographic, and legal, that lock down evidence, trigger coverage, and secure every dollar the law allows for compensation. Dog bites happen more often than most people realize. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, approximately 4.5 million dog bites occur in the United States each year. 4.5 million, with children being the most frequent victim. Here in Maryland, we see these cases regularly, and the aftermath can be both physically and emotionally devastating for victims and their families. I'm attorney Bobby Zirkin. I've been a personal injury attorney for over 25 years. I was a member of the Maryland House of Delegates, a member of the Maryland Senate. And what people don't understand is that the moments immediately following a dog bite are really critical. The decisions you make in those first minutes and hours and days can dramatically impact not only your physical recovery, but also your legal rights and your ability to seek compensation for your injuries. First, you must seek immediate medical attention. The very first thing you need to do after a dog bite is to get medical attention. I cannot stress this enough. Even if the bite seems minor, even if it's just a small puncture wound, you need to see a healthcare professional immediately. Dog bites carry serious risks that aren't immediately apparent. Dogs' mouths contain over 60 different types of bacteria, and bite wounds have an extremely high infection rate. We're talking about infections that can become life-threatening if they're not treated promptly. There are just a lot of bacterial diseases that are commonly found in dog bite wounds, and some can cause sepsis or other serious complications. Beyond the infection risk, there's also the possibility of rabies transmission. While rabies is relatively rare in domestic dogs in Maryland, it's not impossible, and the consequences of untreated rabies and rabies exposure can be fatal. A healthcare provider can assess whether post-exposure prophylaxis is necessary. From a legal standpoint, seeking immediate medical attention serves another crucial purpose. It creates a documented medical record that directly links your injuries to the dog bite incident. Insurance companies and opposing counsel will scrutinize every aspect of your case, and any delay in seeking treatment gives them ammunition to argue that your injuries aren't as serious as you claim, or that they were caused by something other than the dog bite. That's a tough argument for them, but they will try to make it. I've handled cases where victims waited days or even weeks to see a doctor, thinking that their injuries would heal on their own. In every single one of those cases, the insurance company tried to use that delay against us during negotiations. They argued that if the injuries were truly serious, the victim would have sought immediate medical attention. Don't give them that opportunity. Go to the emergency room, go to urgent care, go to your primary care physician immediately. If you're experiencing severe bleeding, deep puncture wounds, or signs of infection like swelling, redness, or pus, please go to the emergency room right away. Number 2, document everything at the scene. While your health is the top priority, if you're able to do so safely, you need to document everything about the incident. This documentation can make or break your case later on. Photograph your injuries immediately after the attack, after the accident. I know this might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people forget to do this in the chaos following a dog bite. Take multiple photos from different angles and make sure the lighting is good enough to clearly show the extent of your injuries. Take close-up shots and wider shots that show the location of the injuries on your body. Document the scene where the attack occurred. Photograph the area, including any fencing, gates, or barriers that might have been present. If the dog was on a leash, photograph the leash. If there were any warning signs or beware of dog signs, document those as well. These details may seem insignificant at the time, but they could be crucial evidence later down the road. Get information about the dog and its owner. This is really important. You'll need the owner's name, contact information, and insurance information if they have any. And again, that insurance information is homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance, not automobile insurance. Ask about the dog's vaccination history and whether it has ever bitten anyone before. Many dog owners will be cooperative in the immediate aftermath of an accident or an incident, but that cooperation can evaporate very quickly when they realize they could be facing a lawsuit or when they've spoken with an attorney. If there were witnesses to the attack, get their contact information as well, or get a witness statement. Witness testimony can be invaluable in proving what happened, especially if the dog owner later tries to claim that you provoked the dog in some way, or that the dog didn't actually attack you or bite you at all. Those witnesses can be critical. Number 3, report the incident to authorities. In Maryland, dog bite incidents should be reported to the appropriate authorities, animal control. This typically means something that contacting the local animal patrol or the police department, or both, depending on your jurisdiction. This reporting serves several important purposes. First, it creates an official record of the incident. This record can be critical evidence in your case, as it is created by a neutral third party and documents the basic facts of what happened to you. Second, reporting helps protect other potential victims. If this dog has a history of aggressive behavior, your report adds to that documented history. Maryland follows an abbreviated one-bite rule with modifications, meaning that in some cases, a dog owner's liability can depend on whether they knew or should have known about their dog's vicious propensities. In some cases, we have what's called strict liability. If a dog is, for example, running at large, that dog is strictly liable, or their owner is strictly liable for the injuries caused by that dog. It's complex law. Much of it is formed by cases that have happened historically, some of it by statute. Third, animal control officers are trained to investigate these incidents. They can gather evidence and interview witnesses in a way that might be more thorough than what you're able to do on your own. They'll also check on the dog's vaccination status and quarantine the animal if necessary, and try to figure out if the dog has had its rabies shot, which is really important to you. The reporting process also triggers certain legal requirements. Under Maryland law, if a dog bites someone, the dog must be quarantined for a certain number of days to make sure that that dog doesn't have rabies, to look for signs of it. This quarantine can be done at the owner's home under certain circumstances, but it must be supervised by animal control. Number 4, gather and preserve evidence, please. Beyond the immediate scene documentation, you need to preserve all evidence related to the incident. This includes keeping all medical records, bills, receipts related to your treatment, everything. And photograph the injury kind of every day if you can, to document what's going on. Every doctor's visit, every prescription, every follow-up appointment creates a paper trail that demonstrates the extent of your injuries and the impact that they have had on your life. If you can, keep a detailed journal of your recovery process. Document your pain levels, how the injuries affect your daily activities, any work you've missed, and how the incident has impacted you emotionally. This contemporaneous documentation is much more powerful than trying to remember these details months or even years later when you're preparing for trial. Preserve any clothing or personal items that were damaged during the attack. Don't wash blood-stained clothes, and don't repair or replace damaged items. These physical items can be powerful evidence of the severity of the attack. If you have to miss work because of your injuries, get documentation from your employer about your lost wages. If you're self-employed, gather documentation of any lost income, such as canceled contracts or appointments that you couldn't fulfill. Number 5, understand Maryland's dog bite laws. This is really important and it's complicated. Maryland has specific laws governing dog bite cases, and understanding these laws is critical to protecting your rights. Maryland follows, to some extent, a modified version of what used to be referred to in a really poorly as the one free bite rule. Really what it means is that a dog owner's liability depends on whether or not they knew or should have known of the vicious propensity of their dog. Under Maryland law, a dog owner is strictly liable, meaning they are liable for injuries caused by the dog if the attack occurs while the victim is in a public place or lawfully in a private place, or if the dog is running at large. And that's been defined by cases. This is codified in Maryland Code Courts and Judicial Proceedings Article Section 3-1901. It means that if you were bitten while, for example, walking on a public sidewalk, visiting someone's home with permission, or even working on someone's property in a professional capacity, the owner is automatically liable for your injuries. However, there are important exceptions to this rule. If you are trespassing on the owner's property, the strict liability rule does not apply. Instead, you would need to prove that the owner knew or should have known of that dog's vicious propensities. The law also provides that an owner is not liable if the victim was teasing, tormenting, or abusing the dog at the time of the attack. This exception is narrowly interpreted by the Maryland courts, and what constitutes teasing or tormenting is often a matter of dispute. Courts and Judicial Proceedings Article 3-1901 came about due to the case of Tracy v. Selesky, which was overturned by the Maryland General Assembly. What happened in Tracy v. Selesky essentially is that a young boy in Baltimore County was attacked viciously by a pit bull. And what the court did was to have what's called breed specificity. Essentially, pit bulls were treated differently than other dogs. That pit bulls, you'd be strictly liable for bites that were done by pit bulls, but not strictly liable for other breeds. That was a problem. And so the Maryland General Assembly returned the state to breed neutrality. A bite is a bite is a bite. But created the statute 3-1901 to really kind of dig deeper into dog bite law, rather than the old one free bite rule, where your dog essentially had a free bite before you were liable for it. It turned it on its head and made it so that the victim there was a presumption for the victim that the dog or the dog's owner knew of the vicious propensity of that dog. So it was easier for the plaintiff or the victim to be compensated. It also created, as we talked about before, the strict liability standard for dogs when they're running at large. And that running at large has been determined by other cases to be quite expansive. If a dog is running without a leash and out of the control of the owner on somebody's personal property, that's running at large. If it's running on a sidewalk or just running out in the neighborhood, that's obviously at large as well. And a dog owner is strictly liable for those injuries. So I guess the point of this is that it's a combination of cases, many cases, and the new statute 3-1901 that forms the basis of dog bite law. It's very complicated in the state of Maryland, much more so than in other states. And it's really important that you have a counsel, that you have an attorney who understands the complexity of these laws. 6. Don't give statements to insurance companies after a dog bite incident. You'll likely be contacted by the dog owner's insurance company. Don't talk to them. This contact might come within hours or days of the incident, and the insurance adjuster will again seem friendly, helpful. They may very well be friendly, helpful, and concerned for you, but that's not their job. They'll express concern for your well-being and offer to help you with your medical bills. Do not give a recorded statement to the dog owner's insurance company without first consulting with an attorney. This is one of the most common mistakes I see in dog bite victim cases, and it can be seriously damaging to your case. Insurance adjusters are trained to ask questions that seem innocent, but are actually designed to minimize your claim. They'll ask about your activities before the bite, whether you've been injured before. They'll try to get you to downplay the severity of your injuries. They might ask questions like, are you feeling better? Or it wasn't that bad, was it? These questions are designed to get you to minimize your injuries on the record. Remember, anything you say to the insurance adjuster can be used against you later. If you tell them you're feeling better just a few days after the incidents, they will use that statement to argue that your injuries weren't that serious to begin with, even if you develop complications later on. The insurance company is not your friend. They're trying to minimize their payout. They're trying to minimize your recovery, and they will use every tool at their disposal to do so. Politely decline to give a statement to the insurance company. Tell them you have an attorney. You can give them their name and phone number, but do not give a statement to the insurance company. Number 7, calculate the true cost of your injuries. Dog bite injuries often result in costs that extend far beyond the medical treatment. Understanding the full scope of damages is critical to ensuring that you receive fair compensation. Medical expenses are the most obvious costs, but they're often just a little tip of the iceberg. Dog bite wounds frequently require multiple surgeries, especially if there's nerve damage or if the wounds become infected. Plastic surgery is often necessary to minimize scarring, and this can involve multiple procedures over several years. And there's permanent scarring. Physical therapy is commonly required, especially for bites to the hands, arms, or legs, or if you've been pushed over or you fell due to a dog bite attack. The cost of ongoing physical therapy can add up to thousands of dollars over time. Lost wages are another significant component of damages. If you're unable to work because of your injuries, you are entitled to compensation for that lost income. This includes not just the immediate time off work, but any future lost earning capacity if your injuries prevent you from performing your job at the same level. You're a piano player and the dog bit through your hand. You won't be able to do your job in the future, and that is compensable. Pain and suffering damages compensate you for the physical pain and emotional trauma you've endured. Dog attacks are often very traumatic events, especially for kids, that can result in lasting psychological effects, including anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. If the attack resulted in permanent scarring or disfigurement, you may be entitled to additional compensation. This is particularly important for facial injuries or injuries to visible areas of the body. Number 8, be aware of time limits. In Maryland, there's a statute of limitations for filing your dog bite lawsuits. Generally, you have 3 years from the date of the incident to file a lawsuit. This might seem like a long time, but it is very important to understand that building a strong case takes time. It's different if you're a child. Children have 3 years past their 18th birthday to file their suit. Evidence can be lost or destroyed over time. Witnesses' memories fade, and medical records can become harder to obtain. The sooner you start building your case, the stronger it's likely to be. There are also certain procedural requirements that must be met. For example, if the dog owner is a government entity, there are specific notice requirements that must be followed within a much shorter period of time. Don't wait until the last minute to take action. The statute of limitations is a hard deadline, and if you miss it, you lose your right to compensation entirely. Number 9, consider the psychological impact. Dog attacks often result in significant psychological trauma that can be just as devastating as the physical injuries. Many victims develop a fear of dogs that affects your daily lives. Children are particularly susceptible to developing lasting phobias and anxiety disorders. Post-traumatic stress disorder is common among dog bite victims. Symptoms can include flashbacks, nightmares, avoidance of places where dogs might be present, and hypervigilance around animals, even fear of dogs. These psychological injuries are real and compensable under Maryland law. Don't dismiss them or assume they're just going to go away on their own. Seek professional help if you're experiencing anxiety, depression, other psychological symptoms such as big fear of dogs following a dog attack. Psychological treatment is just as important as documentation of physical treatment. Keep records of all therapy sessions, psychiatric evaluations, any medications prescribed for things like anxiety or depression, as well as your physical injuries. Number 10, when to contact an attorney. This is an easy one. Contact an attorney immediately after a dog bite. Many dog bite victims ask themselves whether they can handle their cases on their own. While every case is different, legal representation is important in every dog bite case. If you suffered serious injuries that require ongoing medical treatment, you should obviously contact an attorney. Insurance companies are more likely to offer fair settlements when they know you have experienced legal representation. If there's any dispute about what happened or who was at fault, you need an attorney. Dog owners and their insurance companies often try to blame the victim, claiming that the victim provoked the attack or was trespassing. If the dog owner doesn't have insurance or doesn't have adequate insurance coverage, an attorney can help you explore other options for compensation. If you're dealing with a government entity, as the dog owner, the legal requirements are more complicated, and you should definitely have legal representation. If your case seems straightforward, insurance companies often make lowball settlement offers to unrepresented victims. An experienced attorney can evaluate whether a settlement offer is fair and can negotiate on your behalf. If the dog is in an apartment building or in a commercial real estate center, then the landlords may be responsible and their insurers. These are very complex issues and very complicated cases, and these are the types of cases, as in all dog bite cases, where experienced legal representation can help you to get fair compensation for your case. Dog bite cases in Maryland can be really complicated, involving multiple areas of law and requiring careful documentation and preparation. The decisions you make in the immediate aftermath of a dog bite can have lasting consequences for your physical recovery and for your legal rights. The most important thing to remember is that you don't have to navigate this process alone. Maryland law provides protection for dog bite victims, and you have the right to seek compensation for your injuries. But protecting these rights requires prompt action and careful attention to detail. Every dog bite case is unique, and the specific facts of your situation will determine the best course of action. What I've shared with you today provides a roadmap for protecting your rights, but it's no substitute for personalized legal advice based on the specific circumstances of your case. Now, even if you've never been injured by a dog bite, there's a good chance you'll experience other types of accidents. In fact, many of the same principles we've discussed today apply to other personal injury situations. but there are some critical differences you need to know about. That's why I've created another video that walks you through the 5 biggest mistakes people make after a car accident in Maryland, a different personal injury case. These mistakes can completely derail your case, and I see them happen all the time in this office. The tactics insurance companies use are very similar, but the legal requirements and timelines are different. If you want to protect yourself and your family from making these costly errors, you need to watch that video next. That one. I'll see you there.